Here are the tools and equipment you need to have in order to perform the modifications. Pliers, quite important, screwdrivers, both manual and electrical ones, and as well as a bunch of bits on top of them. That simplifies your life a lot. Pry tools become in handy quite a lot. Very important, a short wrench. Otherwise, you for scale. Otherwise, you're not able to connect the ground and power of the control unit. It's a very tight space. Fishing wire, also super important. Optionally, you can use some WD-40 to simplify your life. Black tape to cover a few things. Hammers are kind of optional. Sometimes they become handy, but are not super necessary. Same for a multimeter. I just use that to verify a few things, but it's not super important. You will also need a hot glue gun in order to glue the central dashboard back in place. In addition, you need a bunch of lights, either the lights from your smartphone or a dedicated one in order to brighten up the insides of the Tesla a bit. It's quite dark in there. Quick overview of all the lights which are included, so you know which ones go where. Central dashboard, quite easy to spot, quite heavy. You see that they look slightly different, but those are the ones for the central dashboard. Middle console, quite distinctive look. You should have two of these, one for each side, so slightly different angle, but they look similar. Air vents, that's the one with the see-through connection cable here, because it's actually just one piece, so be careful with it. As you can see, it's the only one which has only two connections, although it looks like two pieces, but it's actually just one. The lights for the doors, one longer one for the front door, one shorter one for the back door. So obviously you need 4 in total, 2 long ones, 2 small ones. Footwell lights, quite obvious. You have 4 of these. The storage lights, they are very small. This is the one for the front. This is the one for the back, so you should have 2 each. And finally, the seat for the back cover of the front seat. You have 2 of these. Let's talk cables, because there are a lot of them and the inventory list is not super intuitive. First, quick intro to the connectors. You have 2, square one and round one. These square 4-pin connectors can be split into 2. The male version, which connects to the control unit, or another upstream connection, and then the female ones connecting to your light emitters or another downstream connection. Then you have these round barrel plugs kind of connectors. Those are the ones which you have to fish through the doors, and their size makes it a bit easier to do this. Now the cables themselves, if you have one for each side, so 2 in total of these big connection wires, which have 2 round plugs, one for the back and one for the front door, and then a bunch of square 4-pin connectors at the end to connect to the lights. Then you have 4 of these, which are the cables which actually go into the door. So you see the other side of the barrel plug, and then you can connect the lights inside of the door using these square 4-pin connectors. 4 of them, 1 for each door. Next up, you have a bunch of splitters. So you can see this is a 2-split connector, 1 in, this one, and 2 out. These 2. I think you have 7 of those. Similar cable, just with a 3-split, 1 in, 3 out. You should have 4 of these. Extension wire, 1 in, 1 out. They're supposed to be 1.5 meters. That's a bit short in my opinion, but I don't know. You should have 3 of those. And last but not least, the actual light emitters look like this. You have 26 of them in total. You can see that the LED is actually built inside of this, and then the lights connect to that. Here's the cable on the other side. For some reason, I had 3 of these ones with a tiny hole. I don't really know why. It's not a big issue, but just don't be surprised if that's the case for you as well. And the way they work is you also get a bunch of these rubber thingy adapters. You put them on top of light on the black cable connection with the square to the light. And what you do then is you take these connections and just put them over there. And this way the LED emits the light, and then it's reflected throughout the light emitter. That's it. Those are all the cables you'll need.
Quick overview of the basic wiring and layout of everything. The control unit will be placed in the passenger side, more precisely under the glove box. It has 4 connectors, 4-pin connectors. We have ground connection, we have the power connection, and then we have 2 connections for the touchpad, which run through the middle console and then is connected inside of the middle console. The right door circuit, I explain more details about this in a minute, is connected directly to the control unit using an extension. We have the central dashboard and the air vents connected to the unit directly as well. This is only the right side of it, so the right half of it. Similar for the middle console. Here I'm only talking about the front wire of the middle console light. The 4th port is used to run an extension wire through the middle console to the driver side, left side. Here we run or connect the light of the touchpad to illuminate the little 3 in the touchpad. We have 1 split for the left middle console front, so the front cable of the left part of the middle console light. 1 split to connect the left door circuit, and then 1 split to connect the whole left air vent and central dashboard, so the other half of it. Here a short overview of the door circuit. Of course, we have this twice, 1 for the passenger and 1 for the driver side. It is split in the front and the back. We start at the control unit or the extension. For the driver side, we'll use the extension wire. For the passenger side, we'll use a connection directly to the control unit. And we run 1 connection through the door. This is the barrel connection, little round icon here. And then we connect it to the 2 top lights in the door itself and 1 storage light in the door itself as well. We can connect it to the footwell. I'll explain that in a minute. On the other side, we connect this directly to the footwell. Here it's the 4-pin connector, not the barrel connector. The long part of the wire runs to the back of the car, and here we have another connection running through the door using a barrel connection, connecting to the 2 lights of the door, the top lights and the storage light. The 4-pin connector is split using either a 2 or 3 split cable to connect the back seats, the 2 parts of the back or the back cover light, and or connect to the footwell, and the middle console backlight, so the cable coming from the back of the middle console on the corresponding side. Now, there are 2 alternatives to install the footwell lights. you could put it under the back seat, so therefore you would need another splitter here to connect it to this circuit, or this is how I did it, you can connect it to the front doors and replace the existing footwell light in the door with the colored lights. I preferred this option because in my opinion it looks a bit nicer. The LED isn't super bright under the back seat, and in my opinion it's not looking that great, so I'll put them in the front. But I'll leave that up to you. Just keep in mind that you have to change wiring slightly depending on your choice.
Quick introduction to the control box. We'll have a more detailed look on how to connect it in a minute. Quite obvious. You have 4 connections to connect your wires, your splitters, extensions, etc. And you have a bunch of colored wires coming out of it. The yellow wire goes into the side door, and I'll show you in a minute how. And it's actually used to grab the signal if the internal lights are turned on or off, so the ambient light will turn on and off with it. Then you have 2 wires, purple and blue, which connect to the touchpad. Have a look at the 3, flip it, and then you can see how they are connected. Blue one, AD2 connects to the left screw. Purple one, AD1 connects to the right screw. And 2 additional cables, the most important ones, down here. Red wire connects to power. It actually has a little fuse at the end, and black wire connects to ground. Before you do any modifications to ground, power, or any other wiring into the car itself, make sure you turn off the car. Go to your settings, go to security, and then turn off car. This might be in a different language, it's in German now, but the button should be at the same place. Confirm it, and then wait about 2 minutes until it's definitely turned off. I had a few problems where I was not patient enough and I still had some power on it. It's not a big deal, it's just 12 volt, but you want to make sure. Also, don't be alarmed. It could happen that you accidentally triggered the frunk or trunk activation while playing with the wires down below. Just don't be alarmed if that's happened. Before you start the wiring process, I'll advise you to remove the control unit from the cables themselves. So in case you have any power surge or something going wrong, you won't hurt your control unit. Let me show you how to remove the side panel here to easier access the cables down below. First, peel off the rubber a bit so you can grab, go to the bottom, pull a bit, it comes out, repeat on the top, and this thing goes out. Next up, grab a screwdriver, and you see this little pin here. Have a close look into this pin because you will find it all over the car. The way you do this is you take a screwdriver, flat screwdriver, move it below here, and then just pull it out, pin goes out, and a little bit of pulling, and that's the pin. Very easy to use. You see here the little holes where to put your screwdriver in. Save that for later. Next up, grab the rubber again and then pull the whole thing out. Once you have remove the upper part, it's easiest if you go here, you see the split, grab from the bottom, actually comes out quite easily, pull it up, remove the thing entirely. That's it. take off the door panel of the passenger's front door. You can refer to the instructions later in the video on how to do this because it's the same on all sides of the car. Take all cables apart, your latch, and all your other cables. Make sure that you keep connected the light. Otherwise the Tesla is not able to detect if the door is open or not, and you'll get weird warnings and it won't lock itself. Then next up, identify this blue little connector. It's a 3-pin connector. For me it had a gray, yellow and black cable coming out of it, but the colors may vary. Then take the second pin, in my case the yellow one, cut it and put a little connector between it so you can connect it to the yellow wire coming from the control unit. As mentioned before, this is used to detect if the internal lights are turned on or turned off. Let me show you where to connect the ground wire of the control unit. Remember, it's the black one. It's quite easy to spot. First, get rid of all the side panels, the door, the panel below, the glove box. And then you see this big white thingy here, and you can use this as a reference point. And the place where you need to connect ground is down there, connected to that screw. The power connection is quite hidden under the glove box. Here again we have a reference point I was alluding to earlier. Then straight up, and there is the power connection. You see I already connected it. You need a very short wrench and small hands preferably to do it, and it's still kind of annoying to do, but it works, trust me. After you're done with the wiring, reconnect the control unit, connect one of the storage lights or any other light emitter to check if everything works. It should light up. In case it doesn't, make sure the car is actually turned on again. You can do this by pressing one of the door openers, and you should see that the monitor comes up and everything should be back online. It also has to be awake, so if it fell asleep you have to wake it up again. If it still doesn't work, press the buttons a couple of times. First connect them obviously, and press the left one for 3 seconds, right one for 3 seconds, and in my experience it turned on, if everything is correctly wired, of course. To remove the front door panel, you have to remove 3 screws. First one is hidden behind this reflector. Take a prying tool, take it out. Second one is hidden right below the open button, right here. Remove the little piece of plastic, comes out. And the last one is hidden down here. Remove them and then continue. Once the screws are out, move down the window, makes it easier to grab the plastic. Start back here. Move your fingers down there and then keep pulling. Work your way up. That's right. Down the door. You quick click, coin it sometimes. Once it's out here, move your way downwards. Takes quite a bit of power, but eventually it'll pop out. Here we go. Be careful with the speaker. There's a little hook behind the speaker, so first pop it out down below and then move it upwards so that you don't rip out the plastic piece in the speaker which is inside of that hook. Once the door is out, kind of put it on your legs. Remove the top speaker first. It's just a little plug. You can also just move out the speaker first. Here you go. And then you see the little plug here. Just pull it out. Here we go. Put the speaker aside. Remove the isolation. Be careful, it rips quite easily. Okay, before you can remove the isolation, you have to detach the emergency latch wire here. For that, you see this green connector. It has to pop out, and then we can rotate this out. So first, just with a bit of force, move this up, pops out, rotate, and it comes out. Leave it like this, and now you can remove the isolation. Now we find ourselves again with a series of wires and connectors. This is the connector you're looking for in the passenger side to connect the light, the yellow LED light cable coming from the control unit. You have the same on the on all cars actually, but you will only need to connect it on the passenger side. So we'll start our way by removing these clips and remove the wire from the little clips down here, and do the same for all the other wires, and disconnecting them all. Disconnect all of them. You might need a little bit more force for these connectors. They're quite hard to do. Once you've done disconnecting stuff, make sure you disconnect the light first, pull it out, but then connect it again. Otherwise the car is not able to detect if the door is closed or not. It's not able to properly roll down the window and a few other things. It will keep annoying you in the app, just as a piece of information. Once the door panel is removed, disassemble or take off the speaker. First, pull out this pin, take a wrench, size 8, and then you have to remove 4 screws. Once the screws are out, you have to detach these little pins here. Have a close look at them. Start at the bottom, because you have other pins in these connections, so find them below, move them out a bit, repeat on the other side down, and now it takes a bit of force pulling it upwards like this to detach the pins which are here. You have 2 little pins here and here, which are connected inside of the door, and it takes a bit of strength to pull them out. One, so really pull it out, and the other one, 2, and this is your speaker. Make sure to store it properly. You don't want to damage the membrane. Using a combination of cutting, clipping and drilling, remove all the holes with the additional plastic donuts on top of here. I'll advise you to start on the side where you have the speaker, or where the speaker used to be. Do the first 2-3 of these plastic covers, and then really firmly pull this way, and then it should click quite loudly, and you already see it comes out slowly. Then repeat the process with all the other plastic caps, and slowly but surely pull everything out. After you remove the top trim, take the longer pieces of the door LED lights. It doesn't matter which one, just the longer one of the two longer ones. And then put it in like this. So you want to have the angle at the back of the door with these big white thingies pressing directly at the door, so that the longer side goes below the panel to what shines through. And then you just run the wires through any hole in the back. Take a piece of 3M tape, which is included, put it down here on the whole front, and then tape it down. After taping the LED and putting the cover back up on top of it, screw in the included screws with the washer under it to fix the cover back in place. The number and placement of screws is up to you, however you feel that the cover is best attached afterwards. To install the storage light, flip the panel upside down. And then look for this little panel down here. You see where the screw is. Grab it and then pull it out. And in here you find this little hole. This is where the storage lights will go. So take the storage light, remember this shape, don't mix it up with the one for the back. Take a light emitter and then plug it in. Only goes in one way. Click. And then make sure the shape matches the orientation or the angle. Like so, and because it only fits one way, and then put it in. Press it in a bit. It doesn't click or make any sound, but you feel that it kind of moves in there. Okay, then take the wire, put it inside of the hole down there, so that you can grab it from the other side. And then reattach the whole plastic piece. And then flip the whole thing back up, the other side. Make sure you don't lose this. And then connect one of the wires to it. If you decided, like I did, to install the footwell lights inside of the front doors instead of beneath the front seats, then install it like this. Just make sure that you tape the original light back in place. We overdid it a bit here, admittedly, but you want to make sure it doesn't like fall apart during drive and makes weird noises, because you have to reconnect it. Otherwise the Tesla is not able to detect if the door is open or not, and it would like all the time complain that the door is open. Also, you will need a two-way splitter up here to connect the lights on top. So run the two-way splitter inside of the barrel connection, and then the two other cables through the storage light, and then the replaced footwell. To start the fishing process in the front, first grab the correct cable and then the correct side of it. You have two of these. It's the longest cable in the set. Front side is the one with 3 connectors, a barrel one and 2 4-pin ones. It's also the only one which has a male connector, which connects to your extension cable for the driver's side or the control unit for the passenger side. Put that in the front and then we wire it through the door. Quick overview of the path the wire will take. First, remove this little rubber thing, put it on the side for now. The wire will come out here, go down there, run through this rubber tube and then into the car. It's easiest if you remove this plastic cover, rubber cover here first, and then do a two-step fishing process. One through here and then one through the whole tube. You can do it in one step, but I find it easier to just do it like this. So for that, remove this little rubber thing here. Just keep pulling on it. Go. Quick introduction to the process of fishing wires for newbies out there. Usually you have two ends of the fishing wire. This one with a little metal part of it. Very good for straight paths that you need to take, for example here from the outside of the door to the inside, because it's quite rigid. And usually on the other end you have a more flexible piece that's best to use for more windy paths, for example through the rubber tube in a minute here. Make sure that you fish the wire in the correct direction. So in this case we want to fish a wire from the inside to the outside, and so you want to put in the fishing wire from the opposite direction. Also make sure you tape it in the correct direction to the fishing wire, again with the plug to the outside. So in this case we would tape it like this. Take a piece of tape and then tape it quite firmly, quite tight. This specific step is quite easy to fish, so it doesn't have to be that tight, but still you want to make sure. And then keep pulling on the other side. Don't apply too much pressure because you risk of grabbing one of the small original wires which are in there and you could damage them. This comes especially important for the next step. Then just remove the tape and you're good to go. Second part of the fishing process starts up top here. Little hole, we removed the plastic cover just a minute ago. Make sure the window is up, otherwise it will hinder you and you wouldn't be able to grab the fishing wire. Put it in the hole in the back of the little hole here, grab it from the other side and it comes out here. That's the easy part. More tricky part is down here you find the hole for the rubber tube. So you want to push the wire with a bit of patience and feeling up the tube and it comes out here. Again, don't apply too much pressure or power or you risk damaging one of the original wires. I've put in the fishing wire in that hole right there and then I'm pushing it up and you can see some of the, you see where the little metal tip is because it's pushing into the rubber here, and then you can just help it a bit until it's up there. Tape the wire again to the fishing wire and keep in mind that on the passenger side you also need to tape the yellow cable, the light LED cable, to this one because you need to fish both of them through the hole. Apply it firmly and then from down here gently pull it through the rubber and make sure when you're leaving the tube at the end that you don't damage any of the original cables. They're quite small and fragile. You want to make sure that doesn't happen. Once you are down here, that's the trickiest part. Pull from the top up here and then put it through. As I said earlier, you can also do this in one step. If you are new to this, I would advise you to do it in 2 steps. If you're a pro already, you can do it in 1. Be careful on the other side here. You have this big little plastic piece. Don't blindly pull in from the inside of the door and push this plastic piece into the cable wire down here. You want to make sure that you have a bit of space here. But the cable is long enough, barely, but long enough to reach up here. And here we go. Take off the tape. Make sure the wire doesn't fall back into the door, and you've successfully fished the wire through the front door. After the wire through, take the rubber cover again and use something pointy. Make a little hole, push the wire through, and then reapply the rubber cover. This makes sure that you're still somewhat waterproof, and it will also make sure that the wire doesn't fall back into the door itself. This, you're done. If you have removed the rubber cover here, first take out the plastic piece. It has 4 plastic clips on each side that you need to kind of pull up, and then it pops out. One, 2, and then you need to push the rubber cover back over the plastic one and then push it in. It takes a bit of patience, it's a bit tricky because of the tight space that you're working in. I'll advise you to first push it in at the bottom and then pull it over the top. It will take you a couple of attempts, but it will work eventually. Once the rubber cover is back on the plastic one, make sure it's actually on it on the bottom and the top. Just press the whole button back in. It will click, and now you're really done. After you installed all the lights, bring the panel back to the door. Reattach all wires. The light, which you either replaced or didn't replace, so again you have to tape it in there. The controls for the windows, the opener, it should be here somewhere. Also try to clip in all the other clips so that the wire is not on tension. I kind of did do a bit of the cable management that Tesla did, just so things look pretty. I'll do the rest in a minute. Don't forget to reattach your speaker up top, and don't forget to attach the speaker wire as well. Otherwise, that would be a pity if you don't have sound. Go. And don't forget to attach your isolation. It's really annoying if you forget that. Last but not least, attach the plug, the barrel plug for the lights. Last but not least, reattach the emergency hatch removal. To do that, let me see, bring it back here. That goes in here. Green dot, you turn it to secure it. And then this little green thing has to be put in right there. It has to click. Wait a second. There you go. Set down there. Before you fix it finally, I would advise you to test the emergency opening. You don't want to be in an emergency and with this wrongly attached just because you installed ambient light. Okay, that's the cabling. With that, we'll put it on. After you connected all the wires, put the panel right at the door and then start from the top to click in the speaker into this little hook and then push it firmly against the door itself to ensure that all the clips click back in place. Ideally you have two people doing this, one pressing from the other side and the other pressing from the other side, and then start here, work your way to the other side and then down. After the last clips flip back in place, reinstall the 3 screws you removed. One here, one down there, one in the back, and then reapply the plastic cover or the reflector. And with that, you're done with the front door. Step 1 in removing the back door is to unscrew the 2 screws in here. One is down here. There's a little panel, just pops up, out. There you go. And the screw is right there. The other screw is down here. Unscrew them and then continue to the next step. Once you have removed the screws, the panel just pops up. Start up here, apply quite a bit of force, make your way over here, and then move towards the bottom. Here you go. Now put it up here. Make sure you don't have too much stress on the cables. Remove the isolation layer. You have little hooks up here that is hooked in. Move that to the side. Now you have a series of connections. Easiest is the speaker. There's a little hook down here that you have to put a push down, and then it just pops out. One. You have the light down here. Similar system. Just make sure that you plug it in if you want the car to detect that the door is closed. It needs this circuit to be closed. Next up is this connector. This one is one part of the connector and this is the other, so the small part, this one pulls out. It's actually quite strong. I had to use pinchers last time. Yeah, it's very strong. And this one has a similar connection. Again, this small part, the colored part, being the thing to pull out. So once you've pulled those out, you can angle these a bit and they pull out like that. And then I'll pull them out in a minute. Once that is done, this cable comes off. This part stays with the door, rest comes off, and you can continue to the next step. With the door panel removed, you have to clip. You just try a couple of things again. Look at these round things the way through the upper part of the door. Destroy them, clip them, and then the other side, the top side, comes off this leather part here. And then the LED is put in here. I used a combination of clipping and drilling to do this. It's quite tricky and takes a bit of time, but it's definitely possible. The easiest way to remove the ones on top is actually to use a cutter and just cut it off. Takes a bit of patience and perseverance, but it's actually quite doable. Here we go. Done. The ones below are actually a bit harder to get removed. You either use a pincher move like this, pressing it together and then kind of squeezing it out, or the more convenient way, which I prefer, is to use a small drill bit and then drill the upper part away here. Just make sure that you always work in an angle, and don't drill below, obviously, otherwise you would hurt the leather on the other side. Hopefully this did the trick. After you've removed the pair, it's always wise to keep popping them out by either pressing into the holes like this, or if you start, just turn it around and then work your way up from here to the bottom. I'll advise you always remove a pair, do a bit of pushing and clipping, and then continue to the next pair until you're done. Once you've removed everything and removed the panel itself, grab one of the LED strips, the shorter one. The longer one obviously goes into the front, and then position it like this. The big white thingy here has to press right against the panel itself, and the longer side of the strip here has to face downwards, because that's actually the one which emits light like this. Cables can be tucked through one of the holes you just pried. They're not needed anymore anyway. I'll do that on both sides. And then grab the included 3M tape. And then tape it in place. Make sure it holds firmly. Of course, it's not the only thing holding the LED strip, because we will put in some screws in a minute, but it helps quite a lot. Cut it off. You can use the rest for other doors or other things. Okay, peel this off, tape it in place. It's actually a two-man job. It's easier to do it with 4 hands. And then we'll continue to the next step. After you glued the strip in place, take the leather cover again, put it on top roughly, and then flip everything back to the other side. Then you take a couple of the included screws and washers and replace or drill them into the spot where you just clipped the plastic covers. Be careful, especially if you drill into the lower part, because the space until you hit the leather is quite tight, so you want to make sure you don't screw through the leather. After you put these screws in, note I didn't put in all of them. It's fine if you just put in a few. Put the little rubber tips on top of the connections coming from the LED strip. Put in the light emitter on both sides. And that's the top part. Now flip the whole panel over. We're gonna install the storage light now. Look down below here. You find the little LED panel where one of the screws came out as well. You see a little hole here. This is where we're gonna put the storage light. It's very easy to get out. Little piece of plastic. Grab the storage light for the back. Note it looks different from the front. The front has a T shape and the back has this kind of well, more straight shape. You put it in here like this. Note there's only one way to put it in. Takes a bit of alignment. Yeah, I think that's the right way to do it. Apply a bit of force and then it stays in place. Take another light emitter and then put it in the back. Scratch that, it's actually easier if you put in the emitter first. Just clicks on like this and then put it in again. Now cable through there. It's a bit tricky to do. Here we go. Like so. Keep it in place. Put the thing back on. And we're good to go. All right. Now, on the other side, grab the small connector with the barrel plug. It has 4-pin connectors on it. Connect the short one to the cable coming from the storage light, and the other two to the connectors of the LED from the top light. And that's it. With this you can mount the panel back to the car itself. To start work on the back door, we first have to remove the A-pillar cover. For that, identify this pin, pull it out, and then continue in the back. It's ideal if you first straighten up the seat, move it all the way to the front and all the way up. This gives you enough space up back here to work. Once you've removed the front pin, loosen up the front a bit, loosen up the back here a bit. Remove the rubber down here, and then from right about here, push into the car, and this thing comes out. Don't be alarmed. Both the black cover down here and the brighter one up here both come out. Second. Then they disconnect because they are linked. This one is of course attached to the seat belt, so just put this aside where it's safe, and then you can remove the whole plastic piece. Go. Careful so you don't break it. Move it up a bit back, and then it disconnects like this. Then just pull it aside. It's simplest if you start from the outside again, make your way inside, remove this little cover, fish from here down here. I removed this so you can take the cable down here, run it through the rubber tube, and then it comes outside right here in the back. Run the cable from the front to the back. Remember, it's the cable with the, or the side of the cable with the two connectors, one barrel connector, one 4-pin connector, and then attach the barrel connector to the wire, fishing wire again, and pull it through. Once you've passed the cable through the tunnel and then out here, connect the cover here again. It's just a press fit, so just put it in there, take your rubber cover again, make a hole in it, push the wire through it, and then connect it again. Personally, I like to pull the cable all the way to the outside until I can easily hide this big thing connector back here. You see that I forgot to push the cable beneath here. I don't think it's a big deal, but if you do it, I advise you to run the cable into this big hole and then upwards. If everything is tidy in the back, you can run the cable through the existing cable tunnel here. Just tuck it in here, make your way to the front, and then we can hide it in the final step all the way down there. Once everything is in place, first don't forget to put the isolation back on. Trust me, it's really annoying if you just assemble the whole door panel and figure you forgot this. Speaking of experience here, connect all cables as you disconnected them earlier. Don't forget the LED in the front. I think it's this one. Should light up. Here we go. You see that the window is actuating again, so that's always a good sign. Connect the speaker. And then finally plug the pinion here. Oh no, not there. Oh, actually just works. And then connect the LED. And it should brighten up if everything is connected. Yeah, you can see it's lighting up here. Good sign. Then move everything roughly into place. Put the isolation on top, make it look a bit tidy. Push everything. And well, yeah, then there is no real system to it. Just hold the panel against the door and then push it. It's also ideal if you have two people doing this, because one can push from one side and the other from the other side. Repeat this all around the door panel until everything clicks, and then screw the screws back in. take your light for the middle console. Make sure you take the correct one because they are flipped, so you want to use the correct one on each side. To take off the leather cover, start in the middle, put your fingers down here and really pull firmly, and then make your way up. You will need quite a bit of power. It's very tight, so don't be alarmed if you have to pull quite hardly against it. It's really not super easy. And then work your way down here and pull everything out. For the back, it's easiest if you move this thing up, use a prying tool like this, and then just work your way up here. Slowly but surely you get it out. But again, it takes quite a bit of strength to do it, so don't be alarmed if it makes a lot of noise. There we go. So once this is out, make sure it's out everywhere. I still have one here. Here we go. And then it's still squeezed in here, up here a bit. You'll need to move it up and then it will pop out. Once the leather cover is out, remove all the screws, keep them in a safe place, and then put in the replacement, tighten the screws again, and then you're good to go. Before you reinstall the trim for the middle console on the driver's side, we have to wire the cable for the touch control. For that, remove the wireless charging pad or just the rubber mat, depending on your Model 3 version. So you can see this. Then remove the screw on this side, which will loosen up the wrench right here a bit, so you can move this up. You see? And then there is a hole right there. I already fed an extension cable through that. It's actually quite easy to do. Also feed the touch control cables, the two I think blue and purple cables, through that, and then you can connect it to the touch control. Quick tip to run the touch control wires through the hole up here. You can use the extension wire as a kind of reverse fishing cable. Push that through, tape the two cables to that extension wire, and then push this upwards and then pull the cable through. After you reinstalled the trim piece for the middle console, just leave the cable in the back here and in the front here for later connection. The install guide actually says that you can or should remove this whole back cover, but I find it much easier to just move this a little bit to the front and then peel the light right behind it. It's actually quite easy to do. Just start from the top and then work your way down below. Move the cable all the way in there and then leave it here. You could press it in here a bit and leave it here for now. Next step is to connect the light emitters to the lights themselves. We have the back side of the middle console here, and then left and right for the seat back cover lights. Just put the plastic tips on it as I showed earlier. And then put a light emitter on it. Repeat this for the other lights. To connect the wires, grab one of the 3 splits, 4 pins in total. If you decided to run one of the footwear lights also under the seat, then you would of course need another 2 split and then connect it to the footwear light. I didn't do this as explained in the intro because I thought it's not looking that nicely. Then you run the cable coming from the front and going into the door through under the seat. Move the seat all the way up so you can push this through here under the rails. Under here. You can also fish it, but in my experience you can also just push it. Here we go. So now it runs through here. Connect the 3-pin splitter. And then the longest wire will connect to the middle console, and the 2 shorter wires will connect to the back seat light covers. If you want, you can also connect to the control unit in the front already, so make a light test. I didn't do this personally because I know it will work, but you can do this. Okay, to connect the middle console, take the longer part of the split as I said earlier, and then similarly push it under the rails here to the other side. It's a bit tricky, but it's possible. And then connect it up. Once you've done this, you can hide the cables coming from the back seat cover light. Just run the black part through the split here, and then tuck the LED light emitter under the leather here. You can easily hide it there. Sure, it looks good. Like so. Repeat it on the other side. Then you can tuck all the cables down there, tie them with a few zip ties. But last step you want to make sure is you move the seat to all possible locations and ensure that you have enough wire there and it's not stretching. Otherwise you would risk damaging the cables if you move all the way to the back or the front, and you don't want to worry about this in your day-to-day life. Once you ran the wire, personally I just taped it in place. Roughly this seemed to be the correct spot. If someone of normal size is sitting in the front chair and the seat is a bit moved back, it will just completely hide the cable in itself. This is roughly how it looks with everything tied up. Yeah, just put it under there, make sure you have enough cable length for the seat to move in all directions, and if the seat is moved in a normal location, there's no way that you see any of these cables. They're all hidden in place, even from the front. No way of knowing that they're there. Quick warning before you start to disassemble the central dashboard. It turned out to be the trickiest part of the whole build. It's very easy to take off, but quite easy to reinstall, and I advise you to do it with 4 hands and plan quite a bit of time. It's not hard or anything, it's just super tricky and takes a lot of time and patience, just as a quick word of warning before you start. First step to replace the central dashboard is to remove the plastic covers on both sides. For that you need to have removed the left panel here, and then you can grab from the bottom and then work your way up. It's quite in there, bit of force, and it goes out. Here we go. Now go to the other side, remove the side panel as well, and then the central dashboard actually just lifts off. Pull here, pull up, you hear it clicking, and then repeat the process all the way to the other side, and then it actually just comes out quite easily. Here's how to install the air vent lights. It takes a bit of patience, it's not super easy. The way to do it is, you see down here, you see this little the connection between the leather and the plastic back here, and these little plastic white pins go right in there. So you want to use a very steep angle of attack from down here, like so, and then push it upwards, and then the back. You definitely want to start at the driver's side and then work your way to the passenger side, because it's much easier at the passenger side to work, because you have no steering wheel, no screen. If you can, use 2 people to do it. Otherwise, I'm sure it's also possible to do it alone. With the central dashboard disassembled, it's now time to take apart the silver cover to replace it with the one which includes the LED strip. Therefore, you have to remove all these connections, the excess glue on all of these points. I used a combination of clipping and drilling to get it out, and then slowly but surely worked my way from the middle down to the other part of the dashboard, and then clipping it out of place one step at a time. You're gonna replace the thing after it. Don't flip them, they're 2 separate pieces, and then I hot glued them in place. Again, be extra careful at the end. This is a very tricky one. You might have to clip or break the black plastic here in order to get it out. Just be careful that you don't hurt or scratch the other side of the dashboard. After you're finished removing or clipping the last pin, it just comes off. Try your best to not really clip these pins. I failed to do this on the last edge here. It's not a big deal, but I guess they add a bit more stability. Once you've done that, put in the replacement part in like this. It's a bit of fiddling. Make sure that you put in the cable below this piece here, otherwise you will clip it in your efforts to press it down, and then hot glue everything in place. Again, a reminder, make sure you use the correct piece on the correct side. They are not identical. You can see one has a hole for the steering wheel, so make sure you don't mix them up before you glue everything in place. After you're done, it should look something like this, and then you can continue with the cabling. Reinstalling the central dashboard turned out to be the trickiest part of the whole build, so far at least. The way we managed it is to squeeze the black cables coming from the vent LED connector, as well as the right part of the dashboard LED panel on the passenger side right now. Through here, there is the leather part on top. You can squeeze that in quite a bit, and then the plastic down here, and you can squeeze the cable between that. It's quite tight here on the other side. It just works out. Inside we used a 3-split connector to connect the left part of the wiring, and then down here there's this hole that you can use to connect the extension cord, and then you just put it on the right hand side for now. Same on the driver's side, same setup, just flipped, and then you just kind of with an angle push the central dashboard in. I'd advise you to start at the passenger side again and then make your way to the left. It's definitely quite tricky, requires a lot of small adjustment, but works out in the end.